Hi everyone. So today's session, I was talking about open data and the opportunities for developers around that. Firstly, the main thing was to define what open data is. And as developers, you're often working with data, but it's often data that's between you and your users. So, for example, you might have people registering on your app, or you might have a business that you've developed the app for and you have data that they're using or that you're processing. Open data is something else. Open data is data that's made publicly available, usually, that you can use to supplement the data that you've built into your app already. And that might be data on things like the location of train stations or bus stops, if you're looking at transport data. Or it might be data about municipal finances, so how a municipality is spending their budgets. Or it could be data around health facilities and health, the location of hospitals and how many beds a hospital has. So what we talked about today is how you might find that data, firstly. And there are lots of different ways of finding the data. We have a toolkit that we support under the Open Data South Africa initiative, where you can find lots of links to data sources, especially from government. So that's a good place to start. We then talked about how you can access that data, and unfortunately a lot of the data is in PDFs, especially from government sources, and you have to use tools like Tabular to extract the data and then put it into a CSV or a spreadsheet where you can then import it into your app. And ideally in the future we hope to see more data available through APIs, so you can just plug your app into an API and get real-time updates or do queries more easily to get clean data. And then we talked about some use cases, where there might be opportunities to work with data. As I mentioned, it might be around education or healthcare or your own municipality, which is a really interesting space to look at. And there's lots more data being made available there. And then lastly, we spoke about how to be responsible and how you use data. And that's things like privacy. So a lot of you are familiar with privacy and security and ensuring you are responsible with how you use personal data from people. But there are also important issues emerging, especially if you're using AI, machine learning based tools, such as around transparency and bias that you need to start taking consideration of. So that's it from me.